would you also be having a different minimum wage, with states, or are we looking at a uniform minimum wage? Because I also remember the argument then when the first, I think the last, before we got to 18,000 naira, some states came up with, the argument of their financial muscle, how much they can take. Some argue that they can't take 18,000 naira as minimum wage based on the resources of the state. So with this renewal of that agreement on the table, are you looking to have a universal minimum wage in the country?
Yes, very, very good point. I think, the point you raised, also points to the need for us to improve more discussion on labor market issues. Because labor market issues, they are complex as money market or capital market issues. When I say labor is one of the factors of production, and perhaps the most significant, because labor is human. It can moderate, it can also go extreme depending on what the issues are. Now, the national minimum wage is the national floor, below which nobody should pay. It's national. What we are saying is that as long as a worker in Nigeria, a working woman or a working man, there is some salary below which you cannot get. Is to ensure income security. Is to also guarantee sustained productivity, and it's done worldwide. Just like you have minimum rules guiding capital market. Interest rate is national minimum. So what I'm saying here is that, but after you have that national minimum, states cannot have the discretion to have their own minimum, but it cannot be below what is the national minimum. And again, it's the same thing in the United States. I was just checking the number this morning. The minimum wage in US is about $7.50. And then there is an agreement now to raise it to $12 by 2020. Which means every year they are working on. And when I say $7.50 per hour, when you multiply by the 8 hours, that gives an idea that what an American worker earns in a day is what we don't earn in a month here. You can see why the difference in productivity in America will be different from Nigeria. So, but that's national minimum. But many states also pay beyond that in America to motivate their workforce. So the national minimum is like safety rules. That if you want to have build a factory, you must have minimum standard, but there must be maximum which you can go. We can engage, but you can't go below that. So the idea of national minimum, and that's why it's on the exclusive list of national legislation. It's done by the Act of Parliament, the Senate, and the National Assembly. And the House of Reps. And let me use this opportunity. The 8th Assembly has been very active. I'm quite impressed with some of the ideas on how to promote made in Nigeria. The Senate in particular, led by Senate President, excellently. But they have to display more activism also in the respect of labor market issues. And I expect them, just like their predecessor during the 6th Assembly, 7th Assembly, where we had the last minimum wage, to start robust discussion about that. Not that the budget is with them. 7.7 trillion budget, that's quite an improvement, even though Nigeria needs higher budget than that. In the debate, they must factor provision for new minimum wage in this budget. And if there's a will, there'll be the way. And we're doing so out of self-enlightening interest.
I'll come in now here.
That's the key to recovery of this economy.
When we return, I want us to speak, a bit on the textile industry.
Okay, yes.
I want to look at the textile industry before we wrap up, especially now that we're talking about made in Nigeria.
Fantastic.
When we return.
Thank you.
As the homeward stretch of Sunrise Daily, Issa is still here with us, Secretary General Textile Workers Union. Specifically, let's look at the textile industry now that we have the move to patronize made in Nigeria products. Tell us how the business is doing, because the last we heard is that many of the industries, especially in the north and a couple of other places, have gone on the ground.
Yeah, thank you so much, Islam. I think in fairness, in the beginning of this government, there have been a lot of activism, official effort to revive the textile industry, and build on what was done in the past. Don't forget that under the previous administration of Jonathan, we had the National Industrial Revolution Plan, and there is the cotton and garment component. There's a policy which came into being. And of course, we had intervention fund, some support. I mean, it wasn't a grant, it was a loan to address the long-term financing demand of the industry. This government has also tried to build on it, and the Minister of State for Industry, Mrs. Aisha Abubakar, has been very active. They've moved around the factories to take inventory of the state of industry. I mean, I was also part of the delegation from Labour, and the Vice President too, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, had hosted us to look at a host number of issues and directed the Minister to work accordingly. But it's not over until it's over, and it will be over when we see, as you said, factories coming on stream and they are producing more workers have been employed. As I'm talking to you now, we are still groaning, and some of the problems are unavoidable. In Ikorodu, we have the biggest textile mill in Africa. I mean, when it was in full production, it was about 5,000 workers, even though now it's down to about 3,000, but it's still big. 3,000 direct jobs. But Suleiman, as I'm talking to you, for the past 2-3 months, they've been having problem of shutdown on account of disconnected electricity from Ikeja. Yeah, from Ikeja electric distribution agency. I mean, and that's complete scandal.
But
wait. No, they are
not owing.
They are not owing.
Electric is there for business.
No, I got your point. So they are not even owing. They pay. No, they are not owing. They pay their normal tariff. We had disputation over the new tariff which they increased. Manufacturer Association, took them to court, and then Ikeja Electric just went on this punitive drive. I mean, the details we can discuss it, but the principle, what I'm saying here is that, and I read today frustration of the Senate, and I will use this medium to call on them to look at holistically. The frustration over this privatization exercise is that there's no link between this reform and industrialization, and you can't do industrialization without electricity. So what I'm saying here is that investors are here, they brought their capital, workers are willing to work. You have the raw materials which they have looked for to produce, then somebody just did the disconnection of light. I mean, you can't really drive industrialization with that kind of approach. Then, where you also find gas being supplied, they are charging us in dollars rather than in naira. I mean, what will be the competitive advantage for the resource that we have at home? When made in China, it's produced with almost free free gas. So what I'm saying here is that I think the president have been saying so. We want to diversify.
I'm afraid of
the key to diversify.
We're really out of time.
Is to promote labor-intensive industry like textile, and patronage must be encouraged.
Secretary General Textile Workers.
So it's a pleasure.
We'd like to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily. There's a wrap on the show. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sulaiman Alede.
I'm Neo Tai. Enjoy the rest of your day.